living room. Thank you all live in person in the room for joining us, and everybody online who's joining us. We're very excited tonight, as every third Tuesday of the month, to be able to bring to you some really important information in your journey with lung cancer. So I'm going to introduce smart patients a little bit later on. We're going to go ahead and do our around the room. And of course, anybody online who would like to chime in about who's there, who's watching, and anything you'd like to say, updates, we'd love to hear from you. Tonight, I think, I can never remember which, I always try to shift left and right? But I think I'm going to start with Jen, if that's okay. Can we start with you? Okay.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Glass. I was diagnosed with stage 3B lung cancer in January, and I have completed my chemo and radiation in February and March, and as you can see, I've recently started Tarceva, and it's kicking me to the curb. It's really, really hard. So I was on it for a week and had just this horrific reaction, and I've been off it for 5 days now while I try to settle, and I'm seeing my oncologist tomorrow, and we'll course correct. I'll go back on it, but at a lower dose. But it's a tough one.
Hi, my name is Tina. I was diagnosed in November of 2010 with 3B, and I did chemo and radiation, and at the end of that I had no active disease, and then I was put on Tarceva, and it's been almost 2 years on Tarceva, 100 milligrams, not 150. I'm thankful for that because I know where she's been.
I'm Rick, and I'm Tina's husband and caregiver, except I don't have to do much caregiving because she's in such great shape.
You can go, Nita. Does anybody...
Hi, I'm Sally, and I want to welcome you, Jen. I read your blog, and I want to welcome another new member sitting next to me, and she'll introduce herself. I was diagnosed through putting myself in an early detection lung cancer detection program. I was very fortunate. It was found after 5 years, one popped up, and I was stage 1A. I had surgery, and I've been clean ever since, and I'm thankful for that.
Hi, I'm Joanna, and this is my first time here. In March, about March, I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and with metastases to the brain. And the reason they found it was because I had a shadow in my eye. It just popped up, and I went right away to my ophthalmologist, and he wasn't sure what it was, so he sent me to a specialist in the city, and then, they did the scans and everything and found out that it was cancer. So anyway, I guess the first line of treatment can be Tarceva now, if you're, I guess, stage 4. And so I've been taking Tarceva for about 9 weeks now, and I'm taking 150 milligrams, and I've had some side effects, but nothing really terrible, so it seems to be working okay for me as far as, tolerating it. And also the shadow in my eye disappeared, and the eye oncologist said that the tumor has flattened out, so it's, it's doing something. And tomorrow I go for a scan, no, actually I went for the scan and the MRI last week, and tomorrow I go to the doctor to find out the results. So anyway, wish me luck on that one. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Nita, and I know most of you all here. I was diagnosed with lung cancer and with a metastasis to the hip in 2009. and after a rigorous chemotherapy treatment, which left me in shambles, they found out the next year in January that I had the EGFR mutation and that I was a proper candidate for Tarceva. So I went on Tarceva in January, and I've been on it ever since. Now, the tumor shrunk right away with the Tarceva, but within the year, it grew back. So we looked at it, and they don't want to operate because of the location of the tumor and because of the metastasis. So we decided to have it radiated, which we did. And I feel great, and I'm doing just fine. And I'm still on Tarceva because the little nodules in the lungs, some of them have grown a little bit, but many of them seem to be holding their own at the same size. And so we're just kind of taking advantage of this process. We think there's nothing new showing right now. So that's where we are.
Hello, my name is Tao. I'm here for the first time. I was diagnosed with lung cancer in December last year, stage 3. So I received a surgery, and surgery for the lobectomy, then chemo, and then radiation. So I've just finished my radiation, and Jim introduced me, so I'm pleased to join you to have just information and exchange and support. So thank you for the meeting. And Michael is my partner, who is very supportive for me through this journey. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Patrick Richards. I was diagnosed July 19th of last year with stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer, squamous. I did my first chemo and only got one stop out of it, but I had 10 tumors. So I switched to Dr. Dormany because I didn't like my first doctor. I had tumors on my back, and I found on the internet it's very important to have shots to strengthen your bones, which he wasn't giving me. So when I switched to Dr. Shane on January 2nd, he made sure I got the shots, and we started a new treatment. We got one stop out of that, and then I had 11 tumors growing after that. Now I'm on Gemzar, and we kind of got a stop on most of them, but we got 2 more tumors on my back. So I'm going for my 3rd round of radiation on my back, and then we'll just see how it goes. We haven't tried Tarceva yet. We're saving that one. I tested EGFR, but I'm also a former smoker, but I quit a long time ago. It should be interesting to see when we get to that part how well it works for me. And yeah, I'm glad I was able to make it this month. Thank you.
I'm Renee. I'm just here to support my friend Sandy, who has, well, I'll let her share.
You're so sweet. My name is Sandy Haber, and I was diagnosed stage 4 August of last year. It was on my left lung, in my lymph nodes, and on my heart. And October, I was started on Xalkori. And as of a month and a half ago, I'm told there's no signs of cancer anywhere in my body. And they've checked everything. So I think I'm a walking guinea pig right now. I'm loving it.
Hi, everyone. Oh, sorry.
You're now cancer-free. Did you say you took Tarceva radiation or
Xalkori.
Yeah, I'm positive, and they gave me Xalkori also.
Crizotinib is what it's also called. So she's ALK positive, so she's on crizotinib. You're welcome.
Hi,
Hi, everyone. My name's Elaine Gray, and I was diagnosed May 4, 2008, and I have passed that 5-year mark. I'm still taking treatment. Dr. Dormady, my little sweetheart, well, he's not little, but he's not. He's a sweetheart. And I have had Tarceva, Gemzar, you name it. I lived in Carmel. I moved here a year ago, and I changed to Dr. Dormady. It's really funny. I lived 46 years in Carmel, and they only have one freeway. So this was a culture shock for me to come up and have 280, 101, and what are these things around me, you know? But I'm managing, and I like Redwood City, and I have my wonderful Sally there to thank for getting me to this meeting. And at 4 o'clock, I was in bed thinking, should I throw up or should I have cheesecake? So I decided to have cheesecake. So here I am. And I feel much, much better. I have to say, when I get to where I want to go, I always feel better. And I have had a pinched nerve for 3 months, 24/7. So this Thursday has nothing to do with my cancer necessarily, but I'm going in for an injection. And they said, do you want sedation? I said, well, naturally. In fact, the more out you can get me, the better it is. And start it right now. So anyway, I have to just say one personal thing. My darling sons gave me an 80th birthday party last Saturday in Carmel at a Swiss restaurant. 42 of my friends came, and we sent out 50 invitations, and 42 people came. And it was so wonderful. And some of the cancer wellness people from the Monterey group, which is out of community hospital, and wonderful, wonderful group of people. And it was so good to see everyone. I talked so much, I couldn't even talk to everyone. And but now all I have to do is send the thank you notes. But anyway, I haven't felt really well. I've been spending a lot of time in bed with the dog and the cat. And I managed to get out and walk 3 times a day with the dog, and always feel better when I do that, but I haven't felt really well, and I don't think it's the cancer. The last CT scan, everything looked really, really good, so I think that I'm doing well there. Just everything else happens to me. You know, I fall and get 21 stitches in my hand, nothing, you know. But anyway, now it's turned into arthritis, so hey. But anyway, so happy to be here. I love this group of people. It's just like my Carmel group. You know, they're just friendly, only it wasn't just lung cancer. And but it was a wonderful group of people, and we really supported one another. So thank you all for being here.
Hi, I'm Carrie Peterson, and I was diagnosed with stage 4 adenocarcinoma in October of 2011, and I am currently trying Taxotere after Alimta worked for about 8 months or so and then didn't work. And so I am looking forward to my next CT scan in July to see if it's helped or what my next step of treatment will be based on that. And this is my brother Christopher, and I can't even talk. But we've been traveling a lot and enjoying ourselves. As you can tell.
Thank you.
So before we go to the back row, because I'm hoping that Christy and Bill will introduce themselves, and Athena, who's our other new person. But I want to, on behalf of Christy, I want to talk about her brother a little bit, who has been out here for the past year supporting her from England, right? Yeah. And sadly, this is his last living room because he's going back. But Christy wanted to make sure that, or Carrie, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Carrie wanted to make sure that we went ahead and acknowledged what Christopher has done. That's where I'm getting screwed up, Christopher. And being out here and support her, and wanted to acknowledge the race you just did from San Francisco to LA. It was a bike race, right? The AIDS run life cycle, and just
545 miles on a bicycle.
yeah, which is huge, right? That's huge. So, and I don't know where Evie is, but I know, and I think Neil might be online, but he would really appreciate that. So we just want to give you a shout out on behalf of Carrie and all of us here for being here and supporting her. You're welcome. And safe travels home. Chrissy, do you have a mic? Oh, there we go.
Hi, my name is Christy Chappelle Morris, and I was diagnosed with stage 4 adenocarcinoma in late 2009. So I have been dealing with this for about 3.5 years and feel very grateful to have had that time and support from organizations like the Addario Lung Cancer Foundation to help guide me along the way. I have been through about every chemotherapy there is, and I haven't had any radiation or any surgery, so it's been all chemotherapy except for a brief stint with Tarceva. And I didn't do well on the 150 and went down to 100 and did better, and it worked for a while. But then it stopped working, as each of these treatments has. Right now I'm on gemcitabine, and had to go through a little fuss with my provider about whether or not that was the appropriate medication to be on. And I prevailed with the help of Dr. Shane Dormady, who wrote a wonderful second opinion for me that, again, with help from Danielle to get that set up for me. And July 22nd, I have a PET scan, and I will see how if the medication is working. I am feeling great. I do very well with chemotherapy. It's an odd thing. A lot of people don't. But I do well, and I'm trying to remain physically active and busy and positive, and so far so good. And this is my wonderful husband, Bill Morris, who has been supporting me all along the way.
My name is Athena, and I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer November of last year. And 3 months later, I got breast cancer. And it wasn't lung cancer that metastasized, it was just breast cancer. And my lung cancer also has metastasized around my heart and around my larynx. So I'm on Tarceva, and it shrunk the tumors, and now they're just stable.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Broder. I was diagnosed September of 2006. I've been on Tarceva for 7 years, and as of 7 years, about 3 months ago, I'm still clear. I had chemo and rads, and my left lung removed in 2007. And Tarceva has been great for me. Makes you tired, but that's about it. I've been lucky.
Hi, I'm Mary, and I was diagnosed in 2010 with stage 4 lung cancer, and it metastasized to my spine. So I couldn't have surgery, and I did 13 rounds of chemo, and then it started to damage my kidneys. It killed the cancer. You know, my spine has not lit up since that time. But so I had, after I was very sick in the hospital, I had radiation on my tumor on my lung and the one on my spine, just in case. And I went 10 months without any kind of treatment and felt great. And then a new tumor developed next to the original tumor in October. And so I started on Tarceva, and I've been on Tarceva since October. And the last scan showed that it gotten a little bigger, but my doctor decided to keep me on the Tarceva, and we're going to do a scan in a week or 2 weeks. And if nothing new has shown up, I'm going to have radiation on the new tumor. So that's where I am right now. Meanwhile, Ray and I just traveled 24 days out of May. We went to Alaska and to Florida and had a great time. And this is Ray.
Sorry, it's back to me. Sorry, I was taking notes. So before I introduced the Smart Patients crew, you guys are probably wondering where my mom is, Bonnie. She has been whisked away to yet another speaking engagement with Boehringer Ingelheim. So she's down in San Diego, and so sad that she is unable to be here tonight. And she, of course, she couldn't sign in live because she has meetings, but she promises she's going to watch the whole thing back in full. So that's where she is tonight. So Scott Santarello, who some of you know, although some of you may not, is the CEO of the Lung Cancer Foundation. So he's sitting in as my co-host tonight. So
not as cute, not as smart, but as excited to be here as Bonnie.
Here you go.
So.
There you go.
How's that?
There you go. I want to do a special shout out to some of the new people in the room too, because I know this can feel like an insanely awkward sort of thing, but you can ask sort of the people that have been coming for years. You know, you get used to the cameras and the mics, and eventually it just becomes like, oh, okay. You know, so thank you so much for joining us. And anybody online who might be new too. I know I've talked to a couple of people from around the country who were going to sign in tonight. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, I've talked to you guys a little bit about Smart Patients over the last few months, and who they are and what they're doing and why we chose why we chose to partner with them and why they chose to partner with us. And it's you know, our goals are very synergistic in that, you know, we want to get access to current, accurate, up-to-the-minute information to the patients, things that they can learn from one another, as well as access to clinical trials. So Smart Patients is the online community that we've been talking about, where patients can, I'm not even going to try to explain it because you all know how technically challenged I am, but where patients can learn from one another, and then there's a search engine built in specific for clinical trials that will be spat back at you based on how you fill out your information. So Gilles and Kevin are here from Smart Patients tonight. Gilles is co-founder with Ronnie Ziegler, who's not here tonight because he is on vacation, which I say good for him because I know these men literally have worked 24/7 to make this come to fruition in as quick a manner as they have. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gilles. And he's going to kind of walk you through the process. Please feel free to interrupt as needed to ask questions, because you know I will.
Just might take a second to pop up.
It's okay, I can start talking. I don't need this. So this is really, it's a very powerful moment for me. I've been building and running online communities for cancer patients for 17 years. And this is the first time I'm sitting in a room with cancer patients. And it's really, really powerful. It's a privilege to present to you what we're going to do, what we're doing now, and what we are building to help all of you get together and find the best information at any time. Since I started this 17 years ago, when we started, there was not a single targeted therapy. Targeted therapy just did not exist. And you can imagine the changes that have taken place. Tarceva was a kind of treatment that nobody could imagine. In fact, we started a lung cancer community almost like from the beginning, and there was very little available treatments for people. And how many changes have taken place since then. So with Ronnie, who is not here, Ronnie used to run health at Google. He was basically the doctor that would answer every question when people would ask, almost. He's an MD, and we have been working together for a few years to figure out how we can scale up the work that we are done with the online communities that have existed. And the result is smart patients. And we build it up for the era of molecular medicine, which is impacting the treatment that most of you are having. As you all experiencing, we have patients that are now generating lots of knowledge among themselves and sharing information and being able to provide real knowledge and value to each other and also to a lot of community oncologists. In our cancer communities, patients help bring the newest science from the center of excellence down to community oncologists, and sometimes short-circuiting bringing the information to those community oncologists maybe a couple of years sooner than they would have otherwise, because community oncologists, without the patients, have to wait until they read in peer-reviewed publications, and the delay is really, could be easily a couple of years. And we really believe that patients are the most undervalued part of the entire healthcare system. I've experienced this now for 17 years, and suddenly people that are building the future of the healthcare system just woke up and are realizing that you cannot build proper medicine today if you don't get the full feedback from patients all the time. Patients have to be at the center of care at the center of care anytime.
So if Bonnie was here, she'd have a smile on her face, right? Because all she talks about is giving patients a seat at the table.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Smart Patients is going to help us do on an online community. So
sure. And
I'll speak for Bonnie in that one second, because I know she would say something about it.
She absolutely wouldn't have interrupted there.
Sure. So the old system that we built over the last 17 years is represented by those silos. In every one of those silos, you have amazing knowledge. But that knowledge is like stuck into this silo and could never escape. And so if you're a lung cancer patient and you are suddenly wondering about Tarceva, if you are right at the beginning of the approval for Tarceva, you can't understand that there may be another community where Tarceva has been tried in clinical trials for many years and then approved, and with a huge knowledge base. And if you ask a question, you could never connect those two communities or three communities. And it was really painful to see that in every community, every time a drug was started for a new indication, people were completely unaware that in another community or other two communities, you had all this knowledge accumulated. And so if you are right at the beginning, you are starting to ask questions about side effects. There are very few people that can answer your questions about side effects. But in another community, you have lots of people that can answer all those questions and let you know if the side effects are normal, not normal, if they're on target, off target. And so we decided that we have to build a new platform. And thanks to Kevin, who built a platform. It's working fantastically so that people are no longer just blocked into one siloed community. Do you want to say something about it?
Yeah, I'm Kevin. So historically, the communities for cancer have been organized around body parts. There's a lung cancer community over here, and there's a kidney cancer community over here, and they never talk to each other. So one of our design principles was you still need those communities. You have a lot in common with each other. But there's also so much that you can learn from the other communities. So one of the design principles is that you have this nice, warm, cozy community where you can share your experiences with, but you can also learn from the knowledge and experiences of other communities.
And I'll give you an example that is unrelated to lung cancer, but fits into what you're experiencing now. We had a community of people suffering from a rare type of sarcoma, where life expectancy was less than 8 months because all of them were misdiagnosed. They were diagnosed with a disease they didn't have, and they were treated for completely wrong treatment. And all of a sudden, there was a targeted therapy called Gilles that was working on one specific mutation called c-KIT. So if you are c-KIT positive, all of a sudden you are treated with Gilles. And we started building a community in '98 for those people that were c-KIT positive. And many of them are still alive today because that drug works so well. It turns out that you don't need to have this rare type of sarcoma to be c-KIT positive. It has been discovered now in more than 40 different types of cancer. And for almost every person, at least Caucasian, that has this c-KIT mutation, the same drug is working wonderfully, regardless of the location of your cancer. And so we decided with Ronnie that we really needed to build this community so that, like, instantly, if you have a question about a specific mutation, a specific side effect, a specific treatment, you are able to connect with other people that have either the same mutation or are learning about it, or the same side effects, or same treatment. At the same time, it's fundamental that people feel that they are in their community just like you are here. This is a community, and we want to make sure that when you're at Smart Patient, the feeling of community is as strong as you experience here. So when you come in, we are going to ask you what type of cancer you have, and you're going to be in a community for your type of cancer. Here is a small example of conversations as they appear, and I chose an example that is now starting to be used for some type of non-small cell, which are PD-1 treatments. It's an immunotherapy, and it's an immunotherapy that seems to be working fantastically for certain types of cancer. I've read some pretty good results lately about non-small cell, but there are amazing results for melanoma, amazing results for kidney cancer, and for some other types. And so by using tags as we have now, you can, if you decide that you want to follow, you are in the lung cancer community, but you also want to follow what's happening with PD-1, in just one click, you're going to be able to see everything that relates to PD-1 treatments. And if you don't like it, you just unfollow the tag, and you'll be back into your community.
And so, Gilles, just to stay on this slide for a second, because I want to kind of explain to you guys my experience. I've created a profile on Smart Patients so that I can, with lung cancer being my primary area of interest, and going back to my true lack of knowledge about how to navigate and how to tag and how to do all of this. Once I did it, well, first of all, it gave me this really cool little square with my own color, and I loved it, and they're all different. But when you want to tag something, it was as simple as kind of running my cursor over nivolumab, which happens to be the drug that they're using in the trials that Gilles is talking about, and then this little thing pops up and it just says follow tag, and you literally click it. So that's the way that you come in and start tagging things, and you can tag lung cancer, immunotherapy, Tarceva rash. You name it across the board. You can tag anything, and then anything anyone's talking about within what you've tagged, you will be able to have access to. So Jen's a perfect example with some of the problems she's been having with the rash. If that was something that she had tagged within this community, she would get feedback specific to that tag. Kind of like the aloe vera plant, which you haven't met DM yet, and I saw her sneak in, but she's the one who was told to everybody in the room about 2.5 years ago about aloe vera from the plant being wildly successful for that. So it's kind of an area. We look at what this is as an extension of this room. So it's what you guys can learn from one another through telling stories and through the speakers that we have, sort of on steroids, if you will, because this is a 24/7 thing, not just an every third Tuesday.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And the other part of the example is that this is a real conversation. Someone was supposed to enter a clinical trial where there are very few spots available, and because he's doing well, he's no longer able to enter the trial, and so he let the people in his community know that there is one spot available. And, I mean, this can easily be a difference between life and death.
Yes.
You see that there is one tag that says NCT with a bunch of numbers. You will see that it gets connected to the search engine, to the clinical trial site that we have, that we think is like completely integrated with the conversations that patients have.
So before you leave this, let me just say.
Sure.
For the last several months, we got a lot of feedback from new people coming in that maybe the tags were a little bit complex for someone just coming in. They just want to come in, talk, find a community, share their problems, and get solutions. We spent the last 2 or 3 months just making it supremely easy for someone to come in. We ask you the very first question when you come in, what's your primary interest? We find a community for you, and you don't have to worry about the tags at all. You come in, you ask a question, you share your problems, you get answers. And then once you start to get comfortable, then you can start adding tags to your questions. You ask a question, so you add a tag, and you might get answers from outside of your community. So it's not just the lung cancer experts that are asking you, it's other people that have experience from the same, of using the same drugs, having the same treatments. The next phase of our development is about really empowering what we're calling community leaders, people who have maybe been around the block, they've experienced some of the struggles, they've survived, they know a lot of the answers, they know a lot of the science, and making it very easy for them to help the new people. So we're providing lots of tools for new person comes in, an experienced person will get an alert to say, hey, there's a new person, they asked a question, so we can get answers very quickly. And make sure that they're in the right community.
Yeah, I mean, the platform is designed to help build a network of micro-experts, regardless of where they got their knowledge, because we know, there is no doubt that the bigger those communities are, the more the number of micro-experts that come in, and because of their expertise in prior experiences in life, are able to discover things that very few people can. And when you combine all those micro-experts together, if you have a community of 2,000, 3,000 people, even 1,000, it's easy to imagine that this community, in fact, knows more about the disease and everything that needs to be known about the disease and the available treatments today than the vast majority of oncologists.
Well, sorry.
I was going to say, can you also talk about the monitoring system that you have in place so that you have actual medical professionals that are monitoring the discussions to make sure that there's accurate and there's not erroneous information being shared?
So in fact, I mean, 17 years have proven it. When you have active communities, we don't need to have medical professionals. When you have a really active community with hundreds or thousands of people, there is very little bias. I think that, in fact, it's one of the places where you have the least amount of bias. And if anybody comes and tries to push some unusual treatment, within an hour, someone is going to say, this is really interesting, can you please provide the scientific references? And because this is the internet, if there is no PubMed reference for whatever you say, then it's not based on science. And if it's not based on science, then it does not belong to the conversation. And so instead of saying to people, no, you can't say that, asking them to provide scientific references is a better answer.
One of the things I love, did you have a question, Elaine? Oh, okay. One of the things I love about this community is, you know, when you just take a step back and have a realistic thought about, you know, your own personal physicians, whether it's one that you landed with now or one that you started with, you can't expect every oncologist on the planet to know everything there is to know about any one specific disease, right? So this is a place where, you know, patient, you know, Cool Blue Square is talking about, you know, what their doctor's saying, and then Green Square is saying, well, I have a similar thing, but this is what my doctor's saying. So it provides feedback to one another that your doctor may not even be aware of, right? So that's stuff that you can bring back to your physician so that he or she can then go, okay, let me dig into this and see how this might be relevant to you. So it's just it's a really great space for patients to be able to share extremely relevant information that might benefit, patient B, C, and D.
And because many of those patients are super informed, they end up getting care at the academic centers. And so what some of them are doing, one of the best doctors in an academic center specializes in like a subtype of disease or a specific treatment. And so they may go to the doctor and announce to the group that they're going to go to see the specialist in a week or two and ask, what questions should I ask on your behalf? And regularly they do this and they come back to the group and says, here are the answers to your questions. And you can be pretty sure that in fact you're getting the most accurate and the most timely responses to the questions that you have.
Right, thereby giving you or patients access to information that they wouldn't otherwise have access to.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are also building content pages. So we chose the PD1 because really it's difficult to understand, and it's of concern it's of interest to a lot of cancer patients, regardless of the disease that they have. And so we decided to build a specific page, and we hope that very soon with you, we're going to do exactly the same for lung cancers of all types. You can see that there is some explanation about behind why the PD-1 treatments or the anti-PD-1 treatments are working. You can also see that it's easy for people coming to understand what PD-1s are to join the community that discuss everything about PD-1.
And just to reiterate, the PD-1, that's the immunotherapy that we were talking about, right? So if you wanted to know more about immunotherapy and whether or not it was relevant for your disease, or just what immunotherapy is all about, or immune oncology is what they're liking to call it now, what Smart Patients is doing is giving you what Gilles just showed you, which is easy to understand, although the T cell and the tumor cells and all that stuff looks confusing. Once you read the text behind it and get it in context, it's actually really not.
I'd just like to add as well that all of the content for that page, it came from the community. We have a PD-1 community that they prepared the initial content, and then we worked with professionals to get it nice images, nice copy.
And below, on the same page, below what you saw, the early explanation, we have a nicely designed table of all the clinical trials that are available for all the anti-PD-1 and PD-L1 treatments.
Which again, this is one of the pages that when Ronnie showed it to me that I loved, because let's assume for a second that this is you, a patient who's looking at immune therapy as an option. This is showing you every single trial that's open in immune oncology, which phases they're in, and then I believe when you click on it, then it'll give you all of the relevant information about that trial. So it's one place, as opposed to, I know a lot of you have been on clinicaltrials.gov or some of these other clinical trial search engines that claim to be a little easier to understand, and it's near impossible to gather the information that is actually relevant to you. And this is just a place where it literally houses it all in one nice, neat little page.
We're also starting to integrate the clinical trial engine, search engine, with the communities. So if you see something like this and you click through, you find a trial and you're interested and you want to know more about it, there's a button right there to go talk about it with the community. So you have a question, you might find someone who's on the trial who can give you answers straight away.
And we make sure that whenever somebody is having a conversation about their participation in a specific trial, we tag the conversation with the NCT ID so that we are able to track all the conversations that relate to a trial.
Excuse me.
Sure.
More
Nita, sorry, will you grab a mic? Sorry.
My question is, that slide it's up there, will it scroll down? Is there more information
This one or the
that
one
feeds
before?
into it? The one you just had, yeah, this one.
When you scroll over the trial, the information comes out toward you. So,
But you're asking if there are more. All relevant trials
Yes.
will be, yes. So if there were more than this, they would show you all of them.
Okay, so this is just a preliminary slide?
No. So do you understand the question, Kevin?
I think so. So this is all of the trials that are related to PD-1.
Okay.
We have other pages that are in the works that are coming out soon for other targeted therapies, other diseases. And so for each disease, for each type of treatment, there'll be a page with a similar table with a similar summary of here's what's available.
And your question is with all trials?
Yes.
Yes. So that's her thing. Is this everything there is with PD-1?
Yes.
Yes.
And again, I mean, if you click on one of those numbers, you will have a pop-up with all the trials that are related.
And this is yet another thing that makes smart patients and what they're doing kind of so far away from the rest. I mean, not to discount, some of the other online patient groups that are out there, but the direct benefit back to patients with what they're doing in real time with, with this information is nobody else is doing it.
We want to make sure that people have access to the information without making any effort.
Right.
So this is one small example of the search page for the clinical trial site, with just a few examples of the trials that have come up. And here is an example of a trial page. So, in fact, if you go back to the table of all the trials for PD-1, if you click on one of the numbers, you're going to have a list of the trials. If you click on one of them, this is what you're going to get. And it's too bad that you don't see it, but you can, from this page, you can start a conversation about this trial directly, and sooner than later, we will be able to show you all the conversations that are related to this trial from that page.
So, Gilles, just so I understand, if somebody has gotten this far and they're interested in this particular trial because of their non-small cell status or whatever, you're saying that, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand this. So you're saying that then there'll be a button and they can click, and does that automatically tag it in their...
Yes.
Okay.
It will automatically tag the conversation.
Okay.
And if there are existing conversation about this trial, it will appear on that page.
So you can go right to the conversation.
So you can see what people have been saying.
Gotcha.
Sure. So this is another activity that we're having. Once in a while, we ask specific subgroups within smart patients to answer some short surveys. It both helps us to keep the lights on for smart patients, because this is how we make money to keep the entire team building the software that we're using. But at the same time, it's very helpful because we help bring the voice of patients back to the industry instead of having proxies that are unrelated. Until now, almost exclusively, doctors were the one that were bringing the voice of patients to the pharmaceutical industry. And as many of us know, doctors don't always know and understand what it is to be a patient. And so if we bring your voice directly to the industry, you end up having better trials. So we have done a survey where some of, I don't know if any one of you is a member of Smart Patient, but some people that are on Smart Patients with non-small cell answer some questions about a specific lung cancer trial with questions about the importance of parkings that are like close or far away from the location where you're going to get medical care. issues that are of no fundamental scientific value, but are of great value for anybody that is involved in a trial.
Which is huge, and this goes back to conversations we've had where I don't know that there's been a trial ever created where a patient's input was asked before it was created, right? Trials are created for purposes of science, obviously, and moving the needle forward, but nobody ever asks a patient, would it be more convenient if you could park closer? You know what I mean? Simple things like that, like Gilles saying, that the doctors don't think to ask, because the bottom line is they're not the patients. They're not the ones having to come back and forth.
But we know that it can go further than this.
Yeah.
We know of one trial for kidney cancer that cannot accrue patients because the exclusion criteria were designed by a great scientific expert that doesn't understand what it is to be a kidney cancer patient and the experience of the group of kidney cancer patients that they need for this trial. They were, exclusion criteria is you can't have had more than 2 prior treatments, and almost every patient with that specific micro indication has had 3 or more. And so nobody can get into the trial. It's a bad design. And if they had asked a patient group, within 3 minutes, they would have known that there is something really flawed about that design.
And more patients would have access to the trial.
This is the end of our presentation.
Okay.
You want to add something?
Happy to answer questions.
So are you guys understanding what this is? Is it still confusing? I see kind of some looks. Hope I know you have to have comments about this and what you think. No? So nobody has any questions? Yeah.
Sure.
Just grab a mic. Just so the audience can hear you. Yeah.
Just to understand the basis of your model, how is it you are funded? Are you how do you actually provide this service? Is it a grant? Do you get money
so
for
far
the?
we have been self-funded. Both me and Ronnie have decided that this was something that was valuable, so we self-funded it for the last year. We're starting to get contracts with the pharmaceutical industry, and we're pretty confident that we can build a really sustainable company.
Oh, well, thank you for the self-funding. I think it's a fabulous service. So.
I will say, too, that one of the things that attracted us to Smart Patients was their interest in the lung cancer community. They came to us and said, we'd like to work with you as a partner at no cost. So there's no cost for us to be able to provide this as a link to our site. The other interesting aspect that's coming out of this is there's some partnerships that are starting to develop with Ronnie and Gilles, with some of our pharmaceutical partners, but some private foundations that have an interest in wanting to build these communities. Sure. And as Danielle said in the beginning of this discussion, we're trying to take this group that meets every Tuesday night and bring it to the world because it's so powerful. And we've taped all of you telling us how important this night is to you when you're here to hear people like this speak, but the researchers and experts and one another. And we were trying to figure out, we can't clone Danielle. We'd like to, but we can't. So how do we take what her and Bonnie have created here and build it for the globe? And Smart Pages is one of those, extension, I think, services that we'll be able to provide that will allow us to do that. And we're really excited about what they represent and how I think truly they want to help patients. I get that. If you talk to Ronnie and if you have a chance to have a conversation with Gilles after this, they really care. And that's the type of people we like to work with.
Privacy, what kind of privacy do contributors have to this?
So everything is protected by login. Our terms of service don't allow pharmaceutical companies to come in. To get in, you have to request an invitation. We have to approve it. Of course, if someone comes in under a cloak, we don't know, but they'll be violating our terms of service. So we treat that quite seriously. As far as sharing information, Gilles mentioned that we are funded. We hope to get most of our money from information to pharmaceuticals. They won't have access to our forum. They won't have access to the details of our members. Any information that we share back will be in aggregate. It will be anonymous. And most of the information that we provide will actually be voluntary opt-in surveys that members, patients answer.
Sure. It's important to understand we are not a marketing company. We don't market anything to patients. Our goal is to bring the voice of patients to the industry. And because we feel so strongly, based on our prior experience, that this is fundamental for the future of both medicine and the pharmaceutical industry, we're confident we're going to be able to build an ethical company that succeeds in doing this.
Well, and some of you guys know that we were just out at ASCO a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking to a lot of people within industry and have been, whether it's pharma or biotech or technology, about what we're doing here. And kind of like Gilles said when we first started this, it's what my mom has been saying over and over and over, is give patients a voice. And this is our shot at a voice where we can get on, we can share our stories. Industry wants to hear us, and finally it's like this big moment where they're wanting our input on all of it, on primarily on trial design, right? And on feedback from the patients. And this community, they're actually gonna, I had somebody online, I'm not sure who asked for a live demo, so it makes a little bit more sense, so it's not in still form. So they're gonna sign on to kind of show you how easy it is. And the site is live, PS, for anybody who wants to get on and kind of feel your way around it. And you can share as little or as much as you want. Yes, Christy?
I don't have a mic, but I know you're going to do this at some point to show us. You're going to tell us how that we can get to the site?
Uh-huh.
Sure. So.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
At some point, okay.
You can pull that out, Kevin, and sit on that if that helps.
You can do it.
Yeah.
You'll do better.
Ray needs a mic.
So you subscribe, you just joined as a new user?
Sorry, Gilles, Ray has a question.
So it kind of goes back to a previous question that are there going to be any doctors allowed on the site? Are they going to be making any comments? Is there going to be any editing by the medical profession?
What do you mean by editing?
Responses to questions that come up. Moderator, I guess you might say.
Moderators, I don't think so, but commentators, yes. We have quite a number of health professionals that have joined, and until now, most of them are listening, except in a few instances where they've already provided very valuable information. But just their presence, them listening to how patients communicate, is enough to transform how they are going to provide care in the future. I think that most doctors are unaware that many patients, more and more patients, are really informed about their disease and want to have a conversation between adults with their doctors, not being treated as if you can't understand what the doctor is doing to you.
So when you first joined the Smart Patients site, we asked a question, what's your role for joining? Are you a patient? Are you a caregiver? Are you a clinician? We do have quite a lot of clinicians join, but our impression is, and we kind of reinforce this from asking them, is that many of them are there to learn. They're not there to direct. And much of the moderation that will happen in the future will come from community leaders, patients, caregivers within their own community. And the doctors are there not as leaders, they're mostly there to learn, is our experience.
But at the same time, we would be thrilled to have the presence of experts come and provide any feedback and any information, or even do some lectures and talk about the latest development about what they are working on.
I think
one concern would be that people reading the website might take the comment of one patient just with the same integrity and credibility as a professional, as an oncologist. And if there's no feedback on that.
Again, I mean, over 1 million people have used the system that has been built over the last 17 years. And I promise you that the quality of the information that goes through those online communities, as long as they are properly monitored by us or by volunteers or by people that know how it should be, the quality of the information is very rarely inferior to what you would get if you go to see a doctor.
But
it's not, no one is talking about replacing doctors. We're talking about adding to the information you get when you go to see your doctor, who spends 10 minutes with you or 15 minutes.
Could you explain your rules of conduct then for how that works? Because I've been involved in a lot of online communities, and so, I mean, maybe that would help kind of clarify this, because if I want to go on there and say, hey, I've got this special vitamin C formula and it'll cure your cancer, if I posted that, what would happen? And what are the rules for posting in terms of, you know, making some sort of a claim like that? How does it work?
So the one rule that we have on Smart Patients is that the first post that you will have is going to be moderated, just to make sure that you're not a spammer, not trying to come in to sell some snake oil. I think that just that first post takes away most of the problem that we can expect. And if you are someone who really believes that because 2 of your friends have told you that vitamin C is going to save you, within an hour, 1 or 5 people will say, this is really interesting, please provide a scientific reference. In fact, we have had example of this vitamin C, high-dose vitamin C, and it took 3 responses, with someone saying, can you please provide the reference? And because, in fact, we went to PubMed, and I mean, I did a search in PubMed for high-dose vitamin C, and it shows that there was one clinical trial done 9 years ago that demonstrated that there is no value in the treatment. Do you know anything more?
And so we actually built into the software capabilities to moderate and to shut down any conversations that go off the rails or that are talking nonsense. We haven't had to use it yet. We've had just a very small handful of kind of crackpots that come in, and their first post is a crackpot post, and they don't go any further. We've had a couple of people that have said something that's maybe questionable and not backed by science. And as Gilles said, we haven't had to shut them down. Very quickly, the community, the experts in the community kind of rise up to the occasion and ask them for references.
There are 2 rules that we have learned over the years really have to be applied. No discussion of politics or religion. And I mean...
Excuse me, on the conversations, I belong to a couple of groups, and some of them are so long I'm not going to read them because it's too much time, and you know, some of them aren't really making a comment that it's useful. Is that...
We've organized, the design of the software is, it's organized so that you can very quickly see at a glance, okay, today I'm interested in, let's say today I'm focused on the science, another day you're looking for support or answer to a specific problem. Today I'm looking at, I want to really understand PD-1. You can kind of focus in on a very specific topic and not be distracted by the nonsense. And you'll find that the conversations that are on a scientific topic or that are on are about providing specific help are very on point and very targeted. There's not a lot of chit-chat. We actually do have a kind of area specifically for chit-chat so that you don't interrupt the flow of the more serious discussion.
So I just want to touch on a couple of things based on Ray's comment about bad information. And I think that one of the things that Gilles said that I really want to drive home to everybody is that nobody at Smart Patients is claiming that this is an area to come to replace the advice of your physician. This is a place to come and gather information from one another that you can then bring back to your physician and say, hey, what about this? right? So it's in no way, shape, or form saying, oh, go ahead and buy the snake oil, right?
But it's also a place where you can fill in the hole that basically when you go to see your doctor, you can only ask the question that you have right at the moment you see the doctor, and then within like 2 weeks later, you have a new side effect that develops. Sometimes you don't have the time or the ability to connect with your doctor, but other patients are going to be able to give you like very valuable feedback in a short period of time.
And then one question online is how long does it take before, once you try to sign on, before you get your approval?
If it takes more than, if we're sleeping, it'll take more than an hour.
Okay, but otherwise within the hour. Okay.
So on the screen now, I've just logged in as a brand new user who has no profile, and so the very first thing that you see is a prompt for what's your primary interest, and we list the communities where we either have a lot of expertise already or we expect to have expertise quite soon. And I'm going to choose kidney cancer because that's actually the community that we have that's furthest along. And now you can see over on the left here, I have 2 tags that I'm following. The first one is introduction. Introduction is just introduction to the website. It's where to click, how to find what you're looking for. And then the second one is specific to my community. In this case, it's kidney cancer. And the vast majority of the posts, and if you use Facebook, it's not completely unlike Facebook. There's a feed of here are all the conversations that are going on. And we try to give you just enough information to know whether is this something that I want to learn more about or something I want to skip over. And as I mouse over each one, I can see whether it's a busy conversation or if it's brand new. If it's something that I'm not interested in, I can mark it red and it's gone from my radar, or I can hide it completely so that it never comes back again. And then if there's something that I am more interested in, here's a post welcoming me to the kidney cancer community. I can click through, and then much like an email thread, you can see all of the replies listed for this conversation. You want to add anything?
No.
Okay, so these blue kind of label lozenge things here, these are the tags that Gilles mentioned earlier. My primary tag is my community tag, and in this case it's kidney cancer. But this post also has tags for things related to kidney cancer. This is a welcome post, so it just basically has subtypes of kidney cancer. But it might also have treatments, it might have drugs. And if you click through to one of those treatments, that same tag will be shared by other communities, by lung cancer community or by sarcoma community. And that's where the breaking down the silos that Gilles talked about really comes into play. Instead of just talking to the kidney cancer folks, I can share my experiences with my side effects and learn from other communities.
And so you see that it's about kidney cancer, but at the same time there are other tags for 3 or 4 different subtypes of kidney cancer. You could imagine exactly the same for non-small cell and sub-communities for all the known biomarkers.
So, Kevin, can you just scroll over one of the tags to show the...
Yeah.
So see how when you scroll over it, he's obviously already following it, but where it says stop following this tag, so if it was something that it would, if you weren't already following it would say, there you go, follow this tag. But if all of a sudden it's something that you've decided, well, this no longer pertains to me because I have talked to my doctor about it and they think that this is the next best move, you can stop following it and follow your next best move tag. So it's that easy to kind of get in and out of conversations so that you aren't involved in things that you don't necessarily want to be involved in, and that you are involved in conversations that you are interested in.
Yeah, and once you're following a tag, all of the conversations related to that tag will show up in your conversation feed, and you'll also get an email every day, every evening, that gives you a summary of everything that's going on with the tags that you follow, and then tags that maybe you didn't know about. So that's a good way to discover conversations about side effects, about other treatments that you don't know about.
I want to show this translocational kidney cancer. You see that there are only 10 followers. They're having conversations about the kind of treatments that they should have. Those people are suffering from like an incredibly rare genetic mutation, and where the vast majority of oncologists have no clue what to do. There seems to be a couple of doctors at the NIH that are starting to have an idea of how this should be treated. And having the ability for those people to communicate with 9 others is just a miracle. Otherwise, they're completely lost.
And similarly, for lung cancer patients, like Gilles was saying, this can go into subtypes, whether it's non-small cell, if it's adeno, if it's squamous, if it's BAC, if it's small cell, if it's
you have a
carcinoid.
ROS1 mutation,
it really creates a very unique space. I'm trying to think of how I'm trying to say this. That is a very specifically unique space.
Yeah, it's specific, but at the same time. So sometimes you're going to have a very specific question that relates to your mutation, but you're still a lung cancer non-small cell patient, and you have many questions that can be answered by the larger community.
So I'll just show one more aspect of the website. So Danielle admired the colored squares. They actually do have a function beyond looking nice. They're a kind of placeholder for a health profile, a medical profile, and a lot of our members use it to record the history of their treatment. So if you see that somebody's saying something interesting in a conversation, interesting or potentially useful, you can kind of mouse over their colored square, their avatar, and then you can see actually their background. And then once you click through, you can private message that person, or you can start a conversation with that person.
And in fact, I want to show something else. You can also send private messages to one person who is writing in a conversation. So you can ask them like privately some questions you may not always want to share with the entire group, and some of the questions that you may have.
Who generates the tags? Do you guys generate them, or do people generate them?
The tags, so anyone can add a tag to a conversation.
But we curate them.
Yeah, we found that new people are not particularly interested in adding tags. So we keep an eye on it, every new conversation that comes up, and make sure it's tagged accurately to make sure that the people who should see it will see it. And then once people kind of get their feet under the table and learn how the system works, they add their own tags.
Once in a while, we get somebody that does exactly the opposite. They come in and they put 30 tags and they create 29 new ones that really should be just like be part of one. And so we curate all of this.
And I mentioned earlier that the next focus of our development is really making it easy for our community leaders to jump in and do a lot of this curation and editing and work to support people. So if someone writes something insightful that should be shared with another community, one of the community leaders will jump in and add a tag so that other community can see it and join the conversation. It's not just the guys at Smart Patients that are doing all this work. We're kind of harnessing the power of the community.
So we got a question online. Is it possible to create a lung cancer living room tag? Would that be something that could be done if they were talking about it? They could create it.
Sure.
Yeah, actually, we've had a lot of experience of. We have a few communities that didn't want to be known by their disease. They came from a community on ACOR. They had a couple of them have whimsical names that they wanted to keep, and absolutely yes, you can create your own community.
Does anybody else have any questions? Anybody online? Go ahead, Hope.
Come up here.
Yeah.
Besides signing up, what do you need from us to help make this thing work? This is my husband had adenocarcinoma, and he did not win his fight, but he was a professional spam fighter and belonged to a large community of people who really believed that technology like this is the thing that's going to make the difference. And had he lived, he would have been volunteering his time to help you with this project. So what can we as a community of patients do to make this thing fly?
At this point, the one thing that we need is to bring in as many people as possible. Bring in patients and caregivers. That's it. Just like let cancer patients and caregivers know that there is this resource.
Any community like this is only as valuable as the people in it. And we have a number of communities that are up and running and very active, and just it's moving just to see the discussions happening every day, and getting new communities started. That's really the next phase of our growth as a company, of keeping new communities coming in, and then our work will just be supporting the communities to support themselves.
And I think, go ahead, Gilles, sorry.
I'll show something, but I can't show it in front of a camera because it's like a real conversation that took place yesterday.
Yeah.
I want to show a real example of a conversation that takes place.
We can do that at the end. I just want to touch on what Hope said, and I appreciate that she's saying it, and I'm getting all these messages from everyone online who's very excited about this, and like I said, wanting to know when their profiles will be activated. The quicker we can build these communities, the more quickly we can learn from one another. It basically provides support in some form or fashion 24/7. So if it's 4 o'clock in the morning and you've had a rough one and you can't sleep, you can get on and be pretty sure that there's going to be someone on there somewhere around the world talking about something specific to you. So I want to absolutely thank Gilles and Kevin and everybody over at Smart Patients for what they've created for this community. And I think somebody online said something about...
Yeah, there was a huge shout out to Ronnie Zager, who's the doctor. He was the former Google Health former strategist for health, and what he and Gilles created, at least from what Danielle and I have been looking at for the last year and a half, is pretty remarkable. And I hope it translated somewhat in this room tonight, and certainly if you go home and sign up, I think you'll find it incredibly useful and powerful tool to use amongst yourselves. And I think there's a lot of knowledge in this room that you can take to help other people, because you're some of the smartest lung cancer patients I know, for sure. And you have a lot to offer, and I think that's really powerful.
And insofar as the potential privacy issues, it's not unlike Facebook, which I know a lot of you are part of that community or some community. You can offer up as little or as much information as you want. When, how Kevin showed, when you hover over your, I call them cute little squares, but they call them avatars. As you hover over them, if you just want it to say your name and your diagnosis or nothing, it can be that simple. So
if you don't want to use your name, it's perfectly fine to use a pseudonym.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that I think that we can develop a really powerful model, having those online communities work together with forward-looking advocacy organization, and the kind of knowledge discovery that can be done. I think we haven't seen yet how much can be generated.
I agree, and I know when I had sent you guys all the email reminder about this, I had sent the TED Talk that Ronnie, who's not here tonight, had done, and I think that will help, if there's any confusion moving forward. It'll help sort of explain the concept and how it came to be and why it's important and what it's going to look like for the future of medicine, really. So if you didn't get a chance to watch it, watch it. Go ahead.
It seems that the first place one starts to realize they have cancer is with the doctor. And so it seems the best place to get the word out is with the clinicians and with the oncologists, the clinics and all that. Do you have resistance to for them to spread the word, or are they just unaware? Is there something the patients can do?
We have much less resistance today than we had in the past. And I think that we are like on the verge of having a majority of clinicians saying that this is really useful.
As a patient advocate, I'd like to comment on what you just said. The resistance in the past has come from a certain percentage of doctors. I mean, really not, they don't want smart patients. They don't want smart patients coming back. I mean, they don't. And questioning them about what it is they should know because they went to medical school, right? So there was a time when this was not wildly accepted by the physician community. And now it's sort of breaking in, and the doctors that can see the value in what is going on here because they ultimately learn from it, those are the doctors you want to be seeing. The ones that don't have any animosities or ill will or bad feelings towards places like this where the patients are getting smarter. The doctors who have problems with smart patients are not doctors that you want to be treating your cancer.
Yeah, I mean, this is really the right time to do this. This week, JAMA, this very conservative paper, magazine for the most conservative medical organization in America, has a special issue about patient engagement. This is it. This is the year where everybody's talking about patient engagement. It has been called the blockbuster drug of the 21st century. And I can tell you that when I started doing this 17 years ago, I was told for the first few years that I was either completely crazy or a criminal. Because, I mean, how dare you have patients communicate with each other without having complete control by physicians?
Whoops. It's okay. Good luck. Do you have brochures or anything like that?
Not yet, but we certainly will have brochures. One thing I want to say about physicians is that early on, when we started building those communities 17 years ago, we had young physicians that joined the communities and became very active. And without an exception, every one of those young doctors has become one of their world leaders. They understood, I mean, they learned tremendous amounts from the patients. They also gain access to patients that were willing to try new therapies, and their ability to have patients join in clinical trials got increased exponentially by their participation in the communities.
Go ahead, Joanne.
I just wanted to know, is this, right now this is for cancer patients, right? Are you expanding this? Are you planning on expanding this in the future to all patients, or is it just?
So for the moment, we're going to build what we hope is going to be a very large community of cancer patients.
Okay.
I'm sure that there will be questions that are unrelated to cancer that are going to come up. But for the moment, we're certainly focused on cancer.
Right.
Because oncology is where molecular medicine is happening.
Right, okay. And then the other thing is about the communities. Who creates the communities? Are these people that just want to start their own community about something? Mm-hmm. So you're like you're a stay-at-home mom with kids that has lung cancer or something like that? Is that how you would create a community?
So to have critical mass, it needs probably more broader appeal than that. But maybe we can aspire to that when we get huge and everyone's joining us. Then sure,
so
that can happen.
It's the user that creates the community.
Yeah. For now, most of the communities are around a disease. There's also a community around PD-1 but most of the communities are oriented around the disease.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to give an example of how you and other people have helped this to change. I've been a caregiver and a survivor from lung cancer. When my mother had
her first lung cancer in 75, and I asked any questions. I was told to go home and stick to cooking my chicken soup. Nobody would give me any answers. And I know there are a lot of caregivers watching this, and in this room too, that I know are going to really be able to profit by this.
We actually do have a caregiver community, and they wouldn't advise you to go home and cook chicken soup.
Soup is good, though.
You haven't tasted my cooking.
And that community is actually very active, and there's a lot of mutual support and encouragement that they give each other. And that's another example of where breaking out of the silos of not talking about a disease by body part can really help, because so many of the issues for caregivers are shared between different diseases.
Well, and this goes back to, and this is just, I'm just having this thought not to backpedal too much, but we've talked a lot in this room about, you know, kind of the wave of the future, and how I know my mom says all the time, it's that, you know, eventually it's what it's going to boil down to is, oh, you don't have lung cancer or breast cancer. It's not going to be site specific so much as it's going to be molecularly specific. Yeah. So the site of origin won't matter as much as what the molecular makeup of the disease is. And that's why this is so important, because of the cross-pollination that they were talking about earlier, whether it's a PD-1 immunotherapy that's being used in cancer A, B, C, or D. It's relevant across the board. So something that never before would you think you might learn something from, a kidney cancer patient, because you're thinking, well, it's a completely different disease. Well, maybe it's not, which is a lot about this, the next-gen sequencing, which our last meeting was about, where you're learning about why it's important to maybe take that deep dive into that sequencing to look at, you know, markers known to cancer in general, not just markers known to lung cancer. So this is going to help move along that process by getting patients to talk about it.
So for lung cancer, it's like fairly recent that you're looking at biomarkers. For other types of cancer, it's now almost like 12, 13 years that it's happening. And this week, in 2 communities where people have been looking at those biomarkers, I brought, just because I was looking, I brought information about a specific trial for another disease that was discussed by a different community because of a TKI of interest to them, and the community where the clinical trial is really of significance was unaware, twice in a week, unaware of the existence of a trial, phase 1 trial that takes place in one institution that just started, that is really hard to find. It's a maze. I mean, it's an incredible maze, and the more tools we develop, the more I'm quite convinced we're going to help everyone get access to information that can save your life.
Anybody else? No. Okay, I'm actually gonna let my boss do the thank yous today.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I am.
I feel special. Well, actually, it's special people. We're thanking Safeway Foundation and Genentech for their support that allows us to provide this not only to the people in the room, but to everyone online, especially Penn TV. Special thank you to them for the work that they do in providing this seamlessly. Everyone online, thank you so much for joining us, and please tell your friends and families about it, and we'll build our own online community with smart patients. And of course, everybody here in this room. We can't do this without you as the audience, and what you bring to the table, the questions you ask, and the engagement that you have, and the way that you help one another. I've been watching it now for a year and a half, and I'm just always inspired and blown away by how powerful it is. And then lastly, because Andrea's in the room, and Jen's in the room, I don't want anyone to forget, if you're in this area, we've got our San Francisco walk run coming up. It's Saturday, September 29th? Sunday, September 29th. Contact Jen if you have any interest. The beauty about this race, and we have races all over the country, but this is our largest. It's about 3,500 of patient family members, patients, caregivers, friends that come out to support one another, help us raise close to $250,000 for research. And it's just a real great day to feel good about being part of something that we're all trying to make some headway and progress in. So, yeah. Oh, and it's at Lake Merced this year, but Jen will have flyers at the end of the room, at the back of the room for you to take a look at. So it's been a real pleasure. Thank you, Gilles, and
Thank you for
Kevin.
having us.
And thank you, Ronnie, although he's not here, but it's been great.